Hello there guys, and welcome back to Endless Space, playing as the United Empire. Just before I start the video, I would like to say a thank you to Shadowhawk2012 for reminding me of something important that I had grown completely oblivious to, and that is one thing I should be doing is probably checking the tax rate every 2 or 3 turns. This is something that I get a bit lazy from because of playing a lot of Civ. This is a mechanic not in Civilization, where you can actually adjust your tax rate, which has a direct effect on your happiness and also on the amount of money you get. So if I put the tax rate up, I'll receive more money per turn, and my population will suffer less happiness. In fact, as you can see, if I go up to 65%, happiness disappears completely. And you can see that my overall approval has dropped into rebellion. And the good thing is, without actually setting it, you can see on every turn, if you look at those green bars, you can see what the approval is on the individual worlds. And you can also see what the approval is on the entire empire. You can also see how much dust per turn I would make in the upper left-hand corner. And one thing extra that we do have on the tax rate for the United Empire is production. If my tax rate was 0, I wouldn't get any additional production. But as I go up, for every 5% extra tax rate, I get an extra 3% production out of people, up until I get to 100%, which would give me an extra 60% production. But of course, everywhere is going to be on strike. This is something that can happen. If your people are too unhappy, the planet can actually go on strike, and then they just won't do anything anymore. So I will keep that at 40% for the time being. Now, we're currently working on the science that we need to be able to colonize one of the planets on Myra, which I think is the, large tundra. That's what we are going for first. Now, we do want to also make sure we get the wormhole tech so we can get through here. We do need to get to the sort of centre of the map as quickly as possible and start colonising some of the planets here before the AI go in and rob them all. It looks like I'm in one of the spiral arms, so the other AI are going to be in a similar sort of situation. Now, whenever we're not building an improvement on a planet, the thing we want to be doing is building ships, because that's what we do as the United Empire. There's going to be a lot of combat, not as much as there is in Warlock, but probably a bit more than there is in one of my average Civ games. So at the moment we've got 2 scouts, and we also have the colonial ship. The only other thing I think we can build currently is a defender. We've got transports and we've got corvettes, so that's basically all we can really build at the moment. So we could build a couple of defenders. They're not great in combat, but they're enough to stave off being attacked by pirates, which may well happen. So we'll get everyone to finish making their turns, which moves our colonial ship a bit closer to Myra, and we will end this turn. Now, the reason it's worth checking the tax rate every couple of turns is because overall happiness on the planet does change from turn to turn. So it's back to our turn, and research has now completed. We have researched xenobotany, and we already have arid epigenics. Do you know, none of the things on this game are easy to remember. That's what I like about Civ. They're all technologies that you can remember. And that will allow us to colonise Arid. I do believe that is already queued up. It should be anyway. Yes, it is. That's what we're doing next. Now, trying to remember how we get the fast movement. I can't remember which. It's under exploration, isn't it? So it's going to be down here. Advanced magnetic drives. So advanced magnetic drives are good because that gives us an extra 2 movement on all of our ships, certainly. Is it this one? Unlock space travels via wormholes. Yeah, the applied Casimir effect. That's what we actually need to be able to travel through those little wormholes. So still a fair few turns off before we can get that, so not to worry too much about that right now. Again, we're going to get everybody moving where they're supposed to be, and I think everybody's just about arrived. You're not going to do anything other than just sit there and wait for an order. Keeping our eyes just to make sure we don't get attacked. I don't think pirates are going to spawn in here, so we should be okay. Although it is probably worth, now I think about it, I'm going to bring one of these scouts down here to where the planets are, because when we do get the applied Casimir effect, we can hop through these wormholes and go and have a look and see what's there as soon as possible. Taxation rate should still be good. Everybody's still happy. The question is, can can you pump it up without upsetting people? I mean, we could go up one more, which would give us an extra 3% production, and the population would still be content. Wouldn't be happy, but would still be content. So let's go for that for a turn or two. Get some additional production put into these heavy isotope refineries, which currently has 2 turns remaining. But what we can do now, of course, is you'll see that one of these orange dots here has gone white, because we can now actually colonize large tundra. It's now gone to colonizable. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our colony ship, and we're going to click the colonize, the star system that this fleet is orbiting. And we get to choose, because sometimes there are multiple planets that you could colonize. We're going to go for the large tundra. Great things have small beginnings. So, yep, some bumps just to tell me that we have colonized a new planet. So, if we look here, you can see already we have no exploitation. We're going to go straight in to here. We've only got one population, of course. It is, you only start off small, just like you do with a city in Civilization. Now, we're gaining 2 food from this planet, which isn't an awful lot. We do gain quite a lot of industry. And science and dust isn't too bad either. But I think what we're going to do for the time being is go for food. And that it's quite a big planet, so we could get a decent population going. We're going to go for food first and try and get the sort of population size up. And as this is a tundra, we would get an additional 1 food per person on the tundra. It would cost us 2 dust per turn, but we're going to queue that up to go afterwards. What we could do then as well is go for the extra production, and we get an extra +1 on tundra. We'll probably end up doing that. You can move the order of these around. You can drag them if you decide to change your mind. You can also pay the dust fee and get them completed instantly. So what I could do is I could pay the dust fee and instantly get that set up. But no need to do that just now. We will need to build another colony ship, though, when we can colonize other planets. As you'll notice, we've got some more white dots now, because we have a tiny tundra planet here on Oead, possibly. We can't do anything with that yet because we can't colonize it, but that has molten springs, which would give us an extra 1 production and an extra 2 dust per population on the planet. It also has hydromeal, which gives us an extra 3 food per person on the planet and an extra 2% food per hydromeal in the Empire. Now you'll see something it says under that. It says effective resource monopoly. If you have 4 or more of the same resource, you actually gain a monopoly, which gives you an even better additional effect. Mundane artifacts are very much geared towards science. Can't colonize any of those. And of course, Aethero here, we also have a huge tundra, and we have a large tundra. Now, the large tundra doesn't really have anything good or bad about it. Fairly decent in production. The huge tundra does have titanium, and it does have mineral poor, though, which gives us unhappiness, and it gives us less production and less gold. So what we need to do is find a way to remove mineral poor before we really think about colonizing that. So I'm not too worried about that for the time being. We will have to build some more colonial ships, though, just so we can do this. We've got a small tundra here that we could colonize. Again, doesn't give us an awful lot, but it does give us titanium. Now, titanium gives us an extra 1 production per turn, and if we have a resource, it gives us minus the production cost on modules that use titanium. So it's nice to get monopolies on things, but I think what we're going to try and do is, as soon as we can, we are going to put out another colonial ship and a defender. Not necessarily in that order. Everybody's still content. I mean, we could even go up to 50%. Let's do that. Let's put it up to the tax rate up to 50% and end the turn. So I should start thinking about which system that I'd like to colonize next. Now, you don't want to spread too quickly. That's the other issue. You don't want to just quickly run off and colonize every individual planet and system you can find. It's very important to consider whether or not there is any value to it before spending the time and resources. I mean, Aethero would be very good because we've actually got 2 planets here that have titanium on them. So we're halfway towards a monopoly there. Molten Springs is good, but Mineral Poor isn't. But if we can colonize Arid, which we should have next, then we should be able to take this one, and then later on we can spread to the large tundra and the huge tundra if we desire to. We could always just put people on here now. But of course we do need to have a colonial ship. We should be one turn away from finishing the heavy isotope refineries, and indeed we are, so let's go on to the next turn. Okay, all the AI have their turn, and we get a production complete. So let's go back into Gaicon. Now, as you can see, we can't really do any more upgrades. We don't have anything here that we can put into place other than converting our production into industry or science, which we don't really need to do right now. So we're going to have a look at ships, and as you can see, we have the options of scouts, defenders, and a colonial ship. Colonial ship will take 6 turns and also costs 1 population, because you have to take some people from your planet where it's built to go and start a colony off. The difference is, of course, if you're building a pilgrims, if you're playing as the pilgrims and you use their world ships, it takes all but 1 person, and it takes all the buildings as well. Again, thanks to Shadowhawk 2012 for reminding me of that. The pilgrims can still build normal colony ships, but their world ships take everything from the world that the ship is built on, so all the population with the exception of 1, and they take all of the buildings apart from the basic colonial base. I think they take the colonial base as well and leave 1 other building, but definitely they take all of the other upgrades with them as well. So a defender's only going to take 3 turns. I think I'm going to get at least 1 defender out. Actually, it's gone down to 2 turns. There's obviously some bonus there working on it. And we will get another colonial ship up and running. I won't queue anything else up after that, because we may well find that we end up with another science being completed by then. So let's go ahead and end the turn. Again, one of the similarities it does have to Civilization and pretty much a lot of 4X games is that some of the early turns can just be clicking through with not an awful lot to do. It's a bit of a shame, but you do get to some turns that take a very long time as you get towards the end. So we've got no research going on at the moment, so we need to pick something else that we could do. Now, we could also look at some of the things for ships and actually increase our abilities. We could go for specialised isotopes. That would allow us to use the siege kinetics module, which means we can invade other planets. We're definitely going to need that at some point. It also gives us a star system improvement, which is stealth construction, and that gives us an extra 25 defense per person or per population on the star system, and also but it costs 1 dust for the improvement. So that probably is something useful. 6 turns to research that. We could go for the isolation shields. Now, isolation shields would give us access to the public-private partnerships, which gives us +1 science per population on the planet. Or is it on the star system? On planets, yeah. And xenology, which would give us the ability to use hydromeal, because the thing is, even though you see those, if we go back to the screen, you see we've got the different resources here. Most of the resources are white, which means we don't have the ability to exploit them. If we look at the titanium is purple, which means we can exploit it. And the reason we can exploit it is because we have the M-Wave fusion plants, which gives us access to the titanium. So we should probably go for the xenology, which would give us access to 4 different types of food resource. It also gives us xenotourism agencies, which give us a improvement to dust on individual planets. So xenology is probably a good one to take next. And then we should probably go into isolation shields, just because it is a relatively quick one. But we do need to get into the applied Kashmir effect relatively early. Now, the way the tech tree works here, unlike Civilization, as you can see, applied Kashmir effect actually has 2 different lines going into it. You don't have to do both of these techs. They're not prerequisites. You only have to do 1. So I could either go to efficient shielding into applied Kashmir effect, or I could go compact fusion reactors into the applied Kashmir effect. Well, we're all about our ships. We'll probably end up getting both of them, to be honest, because if we go for efficient shielding, we will actually get destroyers. So that is a nice thing to have. But of course, if we go for the compact fusion reactors, we'll also get additional movement point for our ships, and we'll be able to colonize Arctic. So I think we're going to go for the fusion reactors first. We haven't got anybody to fight yet, so there's very little point in going for the destroyers. Saying that, though, we can't really go anywhere either, but we've got to research something, so that's what we're going to do. Let's get out of there. Get all the ships just to finish their movement. He's going to park up there and just sit there now until something exciting happens. And we will proceed with the next turn. So, stuff has happened. We have had a hero level up, which is absolutely brilliant. So, let's go and have a look at him. So, what did we give him last time? Last time we gave him Director, which gives him an extra 3 labour. We could go for the next version of that, Director 2, which would give him another 3 labour. Or we could go for 3 wit, which would improve dust and science. Not necessarily a bad thing, because we don't have a particular amount of science coming out at the moment. So we should probably max out one first, though. So I think this time we're going to go for Director 2. He's a hero that we had very early on, so he will get lots more level ups before we finish. We've got a production complete. We have completed our Defender and now working on the colonial ship at Gaikon. And we've completed our exploitation on Myra, and we are now working on our sustainable farms. So that's just a pop-up to tell me it's done. Everything else is sort of queued up ready. Everything is colour-coded, by the way. In production, you see the little green triangle in the upper right-hand corner, which means it is a food building. Orange would be production, yellow would be dust, and blue would be science. So we're all done there. Now, what you will notice here, if you look at Gaikon, you will actually see that we don't have a ship, we don't have a fleet, and that's because the ship is actually still in the hangar. And you'll notice this little weird icon that has appeared now. If I mouse over that, it'll say 1 Empire fleet, and in the hangar you can see it says there is 1 ship. So if I click on this here, you can see that we actually have this Defender, but the Defender is in the hangar. Now, you've got various options you can do with ships in the hangar. You can scrap them, you can create more ships. Well, you can't create more ships, but you can create a fleet. And this is what we want to do, so we want to create a fleet from the selected ships. That ship is selected. So if I create a fleet, the ship appears there. I believe, and as I said at the beginning of this series, I can't remember all the mechanics. This is more of a learning thing. I believe when they're in the hangar, you don't actually have a maintenance cost, or you have a reduced maintenance cost for them. So what we're going to do is move him down here. Doesn't move all that fast, unfortunately, but he will do for the time being. Let's have another quick look at the tax. We're still content. If we put it up anymore, we will be unhappy, which we don't want to do, so we're going to leave it at that and end the turn there. So it's mainly just waiting for productions to complete and stuff like that now. So as you can see, resource discovered. This is because we've researched a new technology which now gives us access to things like hydromeal. Should be that one, is it? Yeah, hydromeal has been identified in the galaxy. Obviously we still can't blue cap molds. Quite a lot of the stuff here actually. But yeah, hydromeal now we will be able to get. I'm not sure why it hasn't gone purple. Oh, that's why. It's not. I think the white and purple is the difference between a strategic resource and a luxury resource, essentially. That must be it. Things like food are a luxury resource. I mean, they do definitely have a benefit, such as giving you additional food or additional science, but things like titanium is actually a strategic resource which is used in the production of ships and modules and things like that, so you need a certain amount of that. So that's the titanium's a little bit like having iron or uranium and coal and things like that in Civilization, whereas these things are kind of like having bananas and cattle and deer and stuff like that. So I think that's the way it works. Could be wrong. It would not be the first time. That's another technology complete, but it's carrying on automatically because it's brilliant like that. What have we got there, by the way? That is... well, it says luxury resource. Luxury resource, mercurite. And if you go over titanium, it says strategic resource. I really should pay more attention to the interface, because it does actually tell you that there. So, but never mind. You have arrived there. You are going to... I don't want you to blockade... Don't want you to intercept. Don't want you to explore. I just want you to sit there and we will use you if need be. Got a fair bit of money coming in now. We could rush something, but I don't think we will just yet. Still not unhappy, so we'll leave the tax rate where it is. I think it's going to be fine at that. We will end the turn. Let the other empires take their turns, which they have done. You can tell whose turn it is by these coloured bars in the corner. No contact with any of the other players yet. We are only third in the scoreboards currently, which a little bit worrying. Especially as the difficulty level I'm playing on. Maybe I've stuffed up, maybe I've done something in the wrong orders, quite possible. I mean, I'm not massively behind second place, but we'll see how that works out. Again, not really a lot that I can do on this turn, so we'll have a cursory glance at the tax rate. Now, you can see here we've dropped into unhappiness, so what we want to do is bring the tax rate down. We're actually going to bring it down enough to put them into happiness. Now, it's a major drop in the tax rate, but it'll be worse for us if we end up with a unhappy... it'll be worse for us if we end up with an unhappy empire. So we've got another science completed now. So we now have the isolation shields, and we are going to be working on the compact fusion reactors. If we were to go into the system now, as you can see, we have new things we can build. We have the public-private partnerships, which would give us additional science per population. But it does cost us 2 dust per turn, and we have the star system improvement, which would give us an extra 8. This is a star system improvement. Some are planetary improvements, and some are system improvements. So this one affects the entire star system. So it would cost us 2 dust per turn to have it, but then we would get an extra 8 dust for every colonized planet that comes under that list. So the first one on the list is colonized Terran. Well, we have a colonized Terran planet here, so instantly we're going to be +6 in the good. It also works for jungle, ocean, arid, and tundra. Well, the only other one we have here is barren, so it's not going to be that great, but we certainly do have Terran, so it would be beneficial. It's an extra 6 dust per turn, so we're going to queue that up after the colonial ship. And then an extra 1 science per population on planets. Well, we've got 5 population here, so that would pump our science up an additional 5. It's on 14 at the moment. We'll put an additional 5 on. That's got to be worth it. 2 dust per turn for 5 science. That sounds very much like a good deal to me. So let's go on to the next turn. And we have a production complete, and that is at Myra, and they're now moving on to the heavy isotope refineries. Of course, we are going to have the same options at Myra. We are going to be able to build Xenotors. Now, as you can see here, Tundra does count, so minus 2 gold per turn, well, minus 2 dust per turn for having it, but we get +8 per Tundra. We do have an Arctic here, and we have a Barren. Are they included? No, neither of those are. But again, it'll be an extra 6 dust per turn, so let's have it there. I don't really think the population here is high enough to warrant going for the public-private partnerships. And this is definitely one of those games where you really do need to sort of assign specific role to systems. Don't just try and build every single building on a single system. Have one system that is dedicated to science, have another that is dedicated to production, and one that's dedicated to dust, and so on and so forth. Well, we've got our colonial ship here at Gaikon, so the question is now, what do we do with it? We could go to Amosa, but it only gives us access to a very small planet, which does have a nice resource on there, and a moon, but we can't do anything with that at the moment. But the rest of the stuff here isn't great. I mean, yeah, you get a lot of production from lava worlds, and we will colonize them eventually, but that's not the best option right now. At least I don't think so. If we look at Thero, this is probably our best option, because it gives us 3 planets that we can already colonize. It gives us access to titanium. In fact, it gives us access to 2 titanium on this planet here. We also have access to a tundra, which doesn't give us an awful lot of anything. We do get a bit of production from that. Once we find a way of getting rid of mineral poor, and there should be a way to do that, I just can't remember. I think you actually have to colonize it first to find out how to get rid of that. But it would be a nice thing to do. Can't colonise the Baron yet, but we will be able to eventually, and then we'll get Voidstone. So I think the best place to set up would be here, because we've got Molten Springs, which gives us additional production, and it gives us additional dust. That is our planet. That is what we are going for, and then we'll spread out to these other planets within the system. The only other option we've got really is here, which is Irradiated, which gives us -20 happiness, -1 food per person, -1 science per person. No interest in that. And we have Oead, which again is just a tiny tundra. Again, it does have Molten Springs, which is nice, and we have Hydromeal there. But what's the point in having really fast population growth on this planet when they've got nowhere to go? So we're going to click here. We are going to create a fleet, and that gives us our colonial ship, and you are going to track all the way here. And of course we know it's safe because we've got a scout here. There's nobody around to give us too much hassle. So let's go on to the next turn. As you can see, the other turns are in progress. The greens have done, the orange have done, the blue's done. The AI kind of take all their turns at the same time. It's a little bit different when there's a war going on, because you can sort of initiate an attack during somebody else's turn. A little bit of a strange thing. I'm sure I will get to show you that mechanic in due course. Now working on the Xenotourism agencies at Myra. So let's dismiss that. Let's carry on getting that colonial ship to move. They're really slow, sadly. Let's just have a very quick look at the tax. Again, the Empire as a whole is content. You can tell by the little face here, actually. This little face tells you... also, you've got some more information on the sort of score here. You can see it says 205, fourth. That is my combination of FIDs. So it's part of the score. So I'm bottom as far as FIDs go at the moment. I'm second in science, as it says there. Knowledge, 26, second. Fleet size, fleet strength, I'm fourth for fleet strength. So I've got the smallest sort of fleet, which I really should do something about. I'm not sure what the other icon is there, actually. Planetary defense, maybe? Not 100% certain. Diplomacy doesn't really matter because there's no diplomacy going on at all at the moment. Can we afford to put that up a little bit? We potentially could, but let's have a happy empire to begin with, at least until we get some improvements that... give us a bit of a boost in that regard. So again, we have now completed the Xenotourism at Gaikon. So let's get rid of that. Let's carry on moving that colonial ship. It does take a while. They are slow things. So of course we did lose a population at Gaikon because that's one of the things that happens. Okay, so we've now completed that at Myra. We don't have anything queued up here. So the question is, do we go for... this? We've now got a population of 4 here, which will potentially mean we could get 4 additional science. It's probably not worth it, not at the moment. Strange fossils are giving us extra science anyway. So I think what we'll do is we will build another ship here, and we will build another defender. So, in fact, we should probably have a couple, because they're only going to take 1 turn to build the first one, 3 turns to build the second one. Let's get a couple of ships built, and let's start forming up a few fleets. In fact, what have we got queued up at Gaikon? That's going to be finished in 1 turn. We'll build another defender here. That will give us a total of 4 defenders, and then we can have 2 fleets of 2. Now, when it comes to warfare, you can only engage a fleet with a fleet. So you can have 10 different fleets sat around a system. If you get attacked by an enemy fleet, you can only defend with 1 fleet at a time. Of course, every fleet will get a turn in defending, but you can't end up with like 100 ships attacking a single ship. It doesn't work that way. Again, that's something that I'm going to have to kind of demonstrate more than try to explain. So we have a hero level up. I told you it wouldn't be long before he did, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Now, of course, we've also got director level 3. Which would give him another 4 labour, which would be brilliant. But let's get some dust and science improvements, because we are quite ahead in science. So let's take 1 rank of negotiator. And then next time we'll probably go back and do director 3. Of course, there are going to be options next time. Smart investors, which gives us bonuses to trade routes. Cooperation, which gives us an extra 15% science on star systems. So there's quite a lot of nice stuff there, but we're going to take that for now. I might be doing everything wrong. By no means should this playthrough be taken as a guide to how to play the game effectively. I'm more just trying to demonstrate the game itself and its mechanics. So, stuff be being built. Let's get rid of that and leave that to carry on. Try and get that colonial ship to Athero at some point. Okay, we have a science complete. We now have compact fusion reactors, which should technically improve the speed at which our ships can move. We do need to now queue up another science. Applied Kashmir effect is 9 turns. I think we really need to go for that very, very quickly. We could get some extra gold and influence. What do we need? Let's have a look. Unlock ceasefire and offer peace. Trade routes. Siege, probably need that, to be honest. We could improve our engines. So much stuff to go for, really. And core mining. I think, yeah, we don't have any Hyperium. At least I haven't seen any yet. Lava, planets, tundra are not really bothering too much with at the moment. We're probably going to need specialised isotopes because we are going to need to build some siege ships at some point. And then we will go for... In fact, no, I've changed my mind. We're going to leave that for now. We're going to do the efficient shielding first and get ourselves the destroyer class ship. And then we're going to go for the applied Kashmir effects. Probably the wrong order to do things in, but it's quite a complicated tree. If we just have a look at our colonial ship, its available movement now is 6. If you look on the bottom right-hand corner of that pop-up. Before it was 4, now it's 6. Scouts used to be 7, they've now gone up to 9. Defenders were also 7 because they're the same class of ship as the Scouts, just better armed. And they've gone up to 9 as well, which is a good thing. So let's carry on moving. Still can't quite get there in a single turn. So we will end that turn. And we're coming up towards the end of the video now. So a few more productions complete. We have finished our productions at both Gaikon and Myra. Not sure what else we could do here apart from building more ships, which I don't really think I want to do right now. So let us convert some of our production into science and get a bit of an improvement going on there. We can do the same thing at Myra. In fact, we now have 5 population here, so I think we will actually go for this public-private partnerships. So as you can see, this little pop-up in the corner shows you how many ships you have in the hangar. This ship here is just a scout, I believe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this defender here, I'm going to create a fleet, and I'm going to move this defender over to Wardan. And I'm also going to create a fleet here. Now, we've got both of these selected, so if I create a fleet, we'll actually have a fleet here, and this fleet actually contains 2 ships. So if you actually see, it says 2 of 5, so that's fleet size. Oh, that's what the number is there then. Okay, so fleet size, I have 7 ships, which is now first, though my fleet strength is only 340, which is 4th. So I have more ships than anybody else, but they're pretty crappy ships. Now what you'll notice here, we've actually got 2 fleets. We've got Beta and we have got Epsilon. But I have this option to merge. And that will now put them both into one fleet, which is Beta. Of course, I can manage them all here. I can actually move ships around. It tells me where they're on the way to, tells me where they're currently parked, tells me their health, how many ships are in the fleet, what's the maximum fleet size is. Don't have any siege ability at the moment. Don't have any heroes on them at the moment either. So that can carry on. Everything else can move where it's going. Colonial ship doesn't quite get there yet. These defenders are going to... I think what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to leave this scout here so we can use it to explore later on. But I'm going to move... actually, no. I'm going to leave these defenders here. I was going to put them here. And then that would give us some blockade on both wormholes in. But I'm not sure if pirates can spawn. And if pirates can spawn, then Myra's a pretty good central sort of location. This should give me the option now to actually show population swapping. Don't think we can do it now. Oh, yeah, we can. So what we could do is we've got this large Arctic here. Now, this Arctic planet gives us... +1 production per person. Well, the planet doesn't. The planet has very little food and very little production. But Arctic planets do give you quite a bit of science. Now, it has deserted cities. Deserted cities give you an extra 1%, an extra 1 production per person on the planet, an extra 1 science per person on the planet, and an extra 1 an extra 1 slot for additional citizens. And what I can do, I don't need to build a colonial ship to send anybody here. What I can do is I can take population from one of my other planets and I can just drag it and drop it onto here. At least I should be able to do so. Drag the population unit onto a colony. Oh no, it has to be colonized first. Right, okay. I think there is a way to colonize it. You can just colonize Arctic and that takes a set number of turns. So, construction affects minus 100% on population growth on the star system. So, it is a little bit like having building a settler in Civilization. The growth stops while you do that. But it will take 2 turns, and that means, you know, we're going to do that, get that queued up. And then once that planet's colonized, you can then drag people from one planet to the other, which is something we will do. So, we're going to end the turn. And this will be the last turn that we make. So, okay, that's finished, and now it's moving on to colonising that planet. That's brilliant. We'll finish the move there. We will select our colonial ship and colonise. And we wanted to go for this arid planet here, so we get Molten Springs and the titanium. We shall select that. Resource exploitation. You can see we now have titanium. Allows for new developments in all linked systems. Now, systems do actually have to be linked up to be able to use stuff. You do have to be able to connect between them, so it is possible if you've got 2 planets and those 2 planets are connected by only one of these sort of cosmic lines and there's an enemy planet in between, or it's blockaded, you can't actually get the resource through, and the planet can be blockaded as well. So if the enemy were to get here and blockade this system, I wouldn't be able to use that resource because it can't leave the system. Again, another mechanic that I'll explain as and when we get to it. We don't have any sort of exploitation going on here, but it is a good production for dust. So we are going to exploit the dust on this planet, and we are also going to, well, we want sustainable farms anyway. It doesn't give us any bonus. Yes, it does. One food bonus per person on arid, so we do want that. This doesn't have a, does it arid? Yep, I can never find them on the list. +1 production on arid, so we'll have that. This gives us, again, a bonus on arid, so we definitely want that, and we'll leave that for now because we don't really have the population. That's everything queued up and ready to go. You guys are going to sit there. Haven't checked the tax rate for a little while. We should do that. Obviously, our home planet is nice and happy. Some systems are protected by fleets. Obviously, it's represented here. I think it's red if it's under attack or if it's being blockaded. The home planet is happy. Not quite so much going on there on our little colonies. We could potentially bump everything. I'm going to drop the tax rates again a little because I've got a decent amount of dust coming in and I don't really need to use it all. So I'm going to end the turn. Obviously, I'm saving it so I could rush by something if I wanted to. We have the efficient shielding now, and we are working on the applied Kashmir effects. Mirror has now colonized the Arctic. So we have a person here. We could drop a person across, but we don't want to do that. We have no exploitation here. We're going to go for science, because we get a lot of science from these type of planets. Again, we don't need to build a lot of the upgrades because a lot of the upgrades are system-wide and not planet-wide, and we've already built the majority of the ones that we can. Bear in mind, though, that the production queue is per the system, not per the planet in any case. So if you have 5 different planets in the system and you want to exploit them all, then it's going to be 5 different exploitations and you have to wait for them in the queue. So that's that sorted out. Completed the construction there, which we know about, and I've minimised it again, which I didn't want to do. And if it was easy, it wouldn't be interesting. What's happened here? Congratulations, you are the first settlement on an advanced and difficult planet type. It is the doorway to greater riches and, of course, greater risks. So it looks like we're one of the first players to actually be researching, colonising some of the tougher planets. If we go in here now, and we add ship, you'll now see we have a new class of ship. We have the Destroyer. Now, these are the modules that we have available. You have weapon and defense modules. So obviously, we've got basically short range weapon. What does it say in long range? Click to change the effective range of your modules. That's new. I don't remember that ever being there before. I thought that it always used to be that they was, because what it used to be, kinetic used to be short range, it used to be melee, and deflection was its counter. Beam weapons used to be medium range, and shields were their counters, and missiles used to be long range, and flak was their counters. Now you also have support modules, which are things that give you like faster engines, give you better auto repair, give you extra tonnage, because you have a weight limit to how much you can actually put on the ship. And then you also have special modules as well. I don't recognise most. I think these are new, actually. Bombers, fighters, troops. Yeah, this is obviously something that's been added in the new expansion. I'm not familiar with this yet. But what we can do with the ship is we can put these things in manually. We can actually choose what modules that we put on. But what we can do is just go auto upgrade, and the computer will automatically try and max out our tonnage. So what it has given us is you can add more than one of these modules. As you can see, missiles have gone on ×5. So we've got missiles, we've got some deflection, and we've got an engine upgrade. So we can do that. We can give the ship a name. Don't know what we should call it, really. It'd be nice if it came up with some sort of random suggestions for you. But I think we'll leave that. I'll do that on the next video. I'm not going to build one just yet. We'll think of a name. If you've got any suggestions for names for ship types and ship classes, by all means, leave them in the comments, and we'll start to use them, providing, of course, they are clean and appropriate, and we'll use them as ship names. Remember, it's not individual ships. It's for ship classes or ship types, but we can start doing that. There's no point me designing one yet, because I don't really need to build one, and by the time I can build one, I might have unlocked some other modules that allow me to build a better version of it. So thanks again for watching, guys, and if you are enjoying this series and you want to see more, give it the thumbs up, leave me a comment, and remember, if you want to see a ship named, if you want to have a go at doing that, because I'm terrible at coming up with names for things, either send me a PM or leave that in the comments as well, and I'll see you next time. So until then, goodbye for now.